Okay, Melissa, thank you very much for being here. And I now have a format. I kind of just say you introduce yourself basically. So give us your name, tell us, what you do, and then we'll just turn it into a conversation from there.
Okay, sounds good. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Bullock. Excited to be here. What do I do? Okay, so I'm a certified meditation and yoga teacher. I'm an intuitive healer. I offer intuitive readings, coaching, group coaching, workshops, classes, deeply passionate about helping people live more authentic and empowered lives. And there's a specific oomph for me with helping women be liberated as well.
Right on. Yeah, okay, you did the perfect thing, which is normally I pivot into going, okay, you just told me to do like five things. There's got to be something that inspires you that holds it all together. And you kind of
Yeah.
just said it right there, probably, which is you're trying to like, what did you say? Like liberate? Liberate, that's a
Well,
cool word.
yeah, with helping people live with liberation, but there's a particular affinity for me as a woman to help other women claim that, but I do work with men as well.
Yeah, right on. I mean, you happen to be a woman, so I'm wondering if there's a connection there at all.
Maybe it could be a coincidence.
So I'm also wondering immediately, if I'm like, you had your own liberation, and then you
Yeah.
go, I don't know if you've seen that meme on the internet where it's like, Lord, I've seen what you've done for other people, and I want that for me too. But it's like the other way around. You're like, I know what has happened for me, and I would like that for other people. And then maybe
Yeah.
you've gone through a moment I've gone through where you really just want to like help everyone, and then you go, whoa, I gotta slow down, back off, and wait for the right people to come to me who are ready to be helped.
Yeah. Yeah. It absolutely started on a path of self healing and self exploration and awakening. And then ultimately, I was kind of yanked towards being a teacher and a guide and helping others. But it really started as me being this deep feeler and really insensitive. I was very intuitive, but I wasn't aware of that at the time. And I would just kind of take on everything for everybody. I grew up with two wonderful humans, but they are also very analytical. So they lived in their minds. And I spoke a totally different language. I was a deep feeler, intuitive, and they were like, "Who the heck is this child?" um, I also was adopted when I was a week old, and so I kind of came into life with a really big wound, and there was a lot of grief, there was a lot of pain, and I didn't really start feeling that into until like late teenager, early 20s. And during that time, I tried to numb, I tried to not feel. I really thought I was wrong. Like I was wrong. I was broken for a very, very long time. And it was through finally letting myself feel, finally facing my pain, facing my grief, learning tools to not take on everything from everybody and realizing that, oh, my sensitivities are actually my gifts. And let me just find out how to live with this. And then different trainings that help me kind of tighten that in, and being in a really unhealthy marriage and leaving that marriage and being a mother and taking care of my kids. And it was this really long, sometimes really painful journey of walking through fire and step by step claiming my own liberation, and then feeling really called to help other people do the same. It started though as just really struggling and being in pain and trying to find relief from that. And there was also, during all of that, it's hard to even sum it up, but in my early 20s, I had a really intense kundalini awakening too. So I was really, really sick and I had no idea what was happening to me. And so taking steps to try to regain my health was a big part of it too.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, that's almost like really along the lines of what I was gonna ask anyway when you like threw that in there. Because I was gonna say, like I'm just imagining as you're talking things that are just really, really hard, but they're like this irritating and like how like a pearl is created from this irritating grain of sand that gets in there and it just starts like it's so annoying. And it's like oh but then like in the process of going through that annoying thing, it's kind of like what needs to happen in order to make you become the beautiful self that you become. And that's but then you brought up the Kundalini thing, which was like, and then you said this kind of the same thing. You're like, oh, and then I got really sick. but then it was also like what needed to happen anyway. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing that, like
Yeah.
cartoon thing and going on.
Totally. And a lot of sand, a lot of really freaking annoying sand. Yeah. That's, that sums it up well. And
Yep.
and even when I had that Kundalini awakening, I was in a toxic job. I was in a toxic relationship. I was numbing with weed and alcohol. Like I was doing all the things. And I feel like there was probably a whispering happening of like, hey, this isn't your path. You need to do this. And I was just, not listening. And I feel like sometimes we need those really jarring shakeups to wake up. And that was
Yeah.
absolutely what happened to me.
It's so interesting that like what can happen is it makes total sense. Like I've started to like understand everyone does everything for a reason. So like when people numb themselves, you go, well, of course you're numbing yourself because it's like you're being overstimulated. You gotta like you only have so much you can take. You gotta use something. You reach for whatever you can to kind of just like, I need to chill, please. I need to slightly escape this thing that's not right for me, you know? But then what happens is you numb everything. And I wish there was a way that you could kind of just like pinpoint, have the magic bullet.
Selective
No,
numbing.
no, no, I kind of want to just like just numb the bad shit that I don't want to feel, but then also, be totally open to those whispers. But then what can happen is then the whispers go away, kind of everything goes away, and then you reach a point where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna feel everything. I'm gonna feel into how terrible and irritating that sand is. Let it push me. Let it do whatever it's got to do, and you surrender to it. And then you kind of almost have a moment where like you feel more pain than ever, and then you just go, how do I get through it? Like that thing where they say, the only way out is
It's
through.
through. Yep. Yeah. And I think one of the issues that we face too is that we are conditioned not to feel, right? We normalize numbing. There's, medications, alcohol, drugs, social media. Like, I mean, there is a gazillion ways that we numb and we're offered that regularly. Hey, don't feel, take this. Hey, don't feel, buy this. Right. So unpeeling that programming is one thing, but I love how you spoke to the selective numbing and that when we build our capacity to sit in pain, we're also building our capacity to be in joy and freedom and all the wonderful, juicy things we want to experience.
Hmm.
And I think when we've sat through it and we're just like in just the poo, we're just like dying inside a million times and it feels absolutely horrible. When
Yeah.
you get to the other side and you realize it was worth it, it makes it easier to keep doing that. It makes it easier to be with the layers of pain that arise when we're human versus when you've never done it before. It's so terrifying. You feel like you're going to actually die and not come out of it when you're in that much pain, especially when we haven't felt it for so long, right? And we're
Yeah.
opening up to feeling for the maybe the first time in our lives.
Yeah, you're making me think about how, the nervous system, if you get down to to the bottom of what it's trying to do for you, it's like am I going to survive or am I going to die? And that when you push it really, really hard, it just goes into, survival mode and goes, huh, all I can think about is, am I going to die in this situation or not? And then it'll freak out and tell you you're going to die when you're not going to die because it's maybe hasn't been tested enough.
Yeah.
And so there are ways I think to both calm down the nervous system, but then almost like to strengthen it. I'm kind of like desperate for words here, but like you can also be stronger as well as calm. But maybe those
Yeah.
two are connected somehow. Maybe you can help me help me out with that.
Yeah. I mean, for me with the nervous system, I'm actually doing a 9-month training right now and I'm nerding out on all things nervous system. And it's been
Yeah.
really fascinating to learn more about that. And to me, such a key is awareness. Like, where am I at right now? What state am I in? We're either in ventral, which is like a central regulation. It's like the place we all want to be. It feels all nice and juicy, and things aren't perfect, but we're centered. We're able to respond. We express emotions properly. And then there's a hypo regulation where like we're turned off or somewhere in between, and then a hyper where we're revved way, way up. I go to hyper more than I go to hypo. And I do go to both. We all do, right? But I think a lot of us get stuck in one or the other. We get stuck in survival. And I love that. The nervous system job is to keep us alive. That's it. That's what it's trying to do. And it might be responding to a cue that happened when we were 2 years old. And, at the age we are now, it has nothing to do with our current environment, but our body doesn't necessarily know that. I think that's a huge part of what we're being offered collectively in healing is if we can all do more nervous system awareness and nourishment. I think it's a huge part of being able to respond more effectively to what's happening in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, where do we go from there? Whew. Done talking about the nervous system. There's nothing else more to say. So you're nerding out on it, but you got nothing more to say about it. That's totally fine. No, let's do a little bit of an overview of
Okay.
like a little like 5 minute kind of thing about. Let's pretend I have no idea what this means at all.
Okay.
And I've done my own study too about the nervous system, parasympathetic, sympathetic, and I
Yeah.
have my own like the hypnosis route of talking about it, which I kind of want to almost weave in there too, because
Yeah.
I'll give you like a little clue of what it is that I find interesting about this is the theory that I was taught mentions this thing where it's you reach a point of hyper-suggestibility. So when you have what we would call message unit overload, is that you have so many like if you imagine that like your whole being is receiving information and it only has like a limited amount of space it can carry, like a cup.
Yeah.
What happens is when people are overloaded, and especially in the like nervous system level, which is like almost like the root of who you are,
Hmm.
everything else is stacked on top of it. If you've got message units, information coming in the body, stuff you're feeling, overwhelm of thoughts, a lot of people are walking around and that cup is like 80% and like almost 100% full. And then when it's at that level, you don't have like the empty space to think for yourself, to make decisions from a place of strength. Since you're so overloaded, it's literally almost like people are actually walking around in a hypnotic state already. So even though I'm even trained to kind of like put people in a state of overload to make them go into a trance, most people are already there, and I find this very fascinating. They're walking around in a trance because there's so many people are actually already overloading themselves. That
Yeah.
part of what I do is I push it to the edge and then help the cup to spill over and empty. And then they're open again. They can like, huh, I haven't felt this clear in a while. I haven't felt this like the sense of like the tension has been opened up or like my space is opened up.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of hypersuggestibility, which is when you're overloaded, you're actually way too open to suggestion, meaning that your defenses are down and that whatever messages are coming in, you almost start just absorbing them, absorbing whatever it is. So it's like just like you go, you're so stressed out, and then you come home and then you like look at the news, and then it just make you instead of being able to like guard yourself and go, okay, shield myself, and I got the strength for that. Since you're overloaded, you just go, oh my God, I'm so depressed. Oh man, what do I do? And everything people tell you to do, it feels like people like responding to it like they're being hypnotized
Yeah.
all the
And don't
time.
you think that that's by design? By the people in power, right? To be easily manipulated, to be easily controlled, right? Like, let's leave all
Absolutely.
these people so freaking stressed that they don't know what's true and then keep feeding them what we want to think is true. And think about, the polarity happening, right? Each side is getting fed and controlled and manipulated, right? And we're not having that sovereignty. We're not having that discernment. Like you just said, is this actually true for me? Because we're just freaking out all the time or spinning out in our heads all the time, right? And when you talk about that, I see that so much energetically where people are either in their heads or just floating above their heads. Very rarely are we inhabiting our bodies. When we're in our bodies, you can't be controlled. When you're really in your body, when you're really in your heart, you just know. You say that's bullshit. That's not true for
Yeah.
me.
I
There's
love
just
that
this knowing.
you kind of branded yourself with the word embody, and I've started to notice more and more people talking about that. And I really like that because there can be like I think we even mentioned this before, like an airiness or a spaciness to a lot of spirituality
Yeah.
and almost kind of like wanting just to be in like a head space a lot, just very head based. But and maybe that's fine too, and there's like a fun trip to that. Everything is like an experience. And
Yeah.
maybe some people that's something that they need. But I also really like this idea. Grounding and anchoring is another thing people talk about a lot. But I like the word embody for some reason. I've been drawn to it, so it's cool that you use it. And yeah, maybe you could kind of go from there, like why
Sure.
it's important to you.
Yeah, I saw that a lot in spiritual communities. I saw a lot of teachers not living how they say they're living. I saw, do this, but I'm not going to live this way. Or going on these spiritual retreats and then your career and relationships are still a total shit show, right? We're having these amazing moments, but then we're not living them. We're not bringing the wisdom we've acquired into our bodies through doing those daily reps, through, calling ourselves out. To me, embodiment is the lived experience of spirituality. It's bringing all of our light, all of our wisdom into our bodies and living it, bringing it to our careers, bringing it to our personal lives, bringing it to our children, our families, really living it. And meditation and whatever practice resonates with you becomes part of your life. It's not like, oh, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes and then I'm going to be a total asshole on minute 15, right? And I mean, we're assholes too that are spiritual, of course. We're all
Yeah.
imperfect, but it's it's just more integrity and you said groundedness. Yeah, let's anchor. Let's inhabit our bodies. A lot of spirituality, our bodies are ignored and our bodies knowing isn't honored. And I found that really hard as a woman in certain clairvoyant trainings that I did. It was like, oh, you're feeling that's wrong. Get back up in your sixth chakra,
Oh,
where and they didn't say it like that, but that was the
okay.
teaching. It was like, no, you don't want
Yeah.
to feel, where this is why we're here, when really like all of our centers are giving us messages. And the reason that's often included in clairvoyant teachings is because it can be really intense when you're looking at certain energies to be really feeling, and so it dials it down a bit and makes you more neutral. But as you practice it more and more, you kind of start to come back into all of your centers. And there's, what I'm seeing clairvoyantly, there's what I'm feeling in my body, there's, maybe messages coming through or a knowing. And all of those avenues are ways that we receive information. And if we're in our bodies, then we're home to receive it. If we're just floating above our heads, then somebody might be knocking and we're not gonna we're not gonna get the message. We're
Yeah.
gonna miss it.
Would you say that the different parts of you receive different kinds of messages? Like, you know what I mean? Like almost like it's a different media. You know what I mean? Like stuff that can be written down, stuff can be in a movie. Do you know what I mean? Like something is like I don't know, like I'll make something up like it's a third eye message versus like a gut message. You know what I mean? Are those different at all?
They're they're received differently, but it tends to be a similar message. It's almost like my higher self or my guides or the universe are trying to come into my house to tell me something, and they might come through a different way. So maybe one day I'm receiving it through the knowing of my body or through, different sensory experiences, and maybe one day I can see the image really clearly, or I might even hear something. I don't know if I would say there's different energies.
Okay.
And then sometimes if I'm just being completely just unaware, I feel like they like all get turned up and it's like, hey, you're not listening. Hit her from all angles. Keep
Absolutely.
going.
I like that. Yeah, even if it's irritating, piece like little bit of sand.
Yeah.
Find a message. We spoke to her ears and she's not listening. So start like hit the body now.
Yeah. I'm good at hearing the big stuff. I'm learning to honor the little stuff. I've told a story where I was at Paloma Park walking through the grass and I heard so freaking clearly, put on your sandals, you're gonna step on a bee. And I was like, ha ha ha, that's stupid. And I took like three more steps and I stepped on a bee. And my entire foot was swollen and it was really itchy and I was having different histamine stuff at the time, and I was like, that was so clear, that was like the clearest guidance,
Yeah.
and I just blatantly ignored it, invalidated myself, and then directly right after that stepped on the bee, so it's like those little messages we get during the day too, those matter too.
You know what I think is funny though? Another way to look at that is you validated the message, didn't you?
Well,
You
it would have been
proved
nice to
it.
validate it without stepping on the bee you
Yeah.
know
You proved it. You maybe you needed that moment of being stung in your foot. The place that where you were headed had something that kind of needed to sting you to alert you to something that was important. Because
Yeah.
I've had moments like that too where you go, it's just a voice. If I do what the voice is saying to avoid, I'll never really know if it was just a voice or not. But because how do you know if it's about the thing that doesn't happen? There's no proof there.
Yeah.
Learn to let go and go, well, why would I need proof? Just, maybe avoiding something bad is okay.
Yeah.
Because maybe this is something you can almost help me sift through.
Yeah.
Is I had it's like the arc of my life has been, I used to be someone who had lots of negative self-talk, lots of like paranoid stuff that was going, something horrible is about to happen.
Yeah.
And I had to go through a process of like cleaning that out. And only now am I in like a point in my life where I'm like, don't completely block it out. Because I reached a point where I was just like, then none of that is helpful for you. You have learned to get rid of all of that anxiety and all of that toxicity. And then now maybe when a stray thing comes up and it's more calm now, it's more like a clear message. Because it used to be just like everything bad is about to happen. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
couldn't tell the difference between what was
When it
just
was actually
bothering me and
legitimate.
real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really common. And that, they call them monkey minds for a reason, right? Our minds are really, really active. And I think some of ours maybe more than others. And whatever practice resonates with you, finding those daily practices that help us calm our minds. And our minds are never just blissfully quiet. I would love for that to be the case. We have moments of that,
Yeah.
right? But it's not like our minds are just like, hey, we'll see you in a couple months. We're heading out. Because, we need them. They're part of how we stay alive and healthy. But um, I think that's part of also like what you spoke to is being part of the observer, where you are no longer identifying with your thoughts. Like before, you probably thought all of them were real and you like were your thoughts. And now I can kind of see this energy of like you're that wise person watching them float by and learning to discern of like, okay, that one is in alignment. This one's total crap. This one,
Hmm.
let's pull that in and look at it. This one, I can just let it float by and like feeling into the quality. And to me,
Yes.
that's also trusting your intuition too, of like, when is this actually helping me? And for my highest good, or when is this just fear based and fully off, not in alignment with what's actually happening in this moment that I'm responding to. But I think that's exactly what so many people are stuck in is their minds are so active that they are not connected to their intuition. They're not connected to their knowing because there's just too much information. There's just too much
Yeah.
noise that we can't hear that inner voice. And again,
So
I
that's
think that's by
probably,
design, right? Feed them,
yeah.
feed them, feed them more, more, more. And then they won't know what's true for themselves, you
Yes.
know?
I mean, so that would be, I think, the connecting tissue here between your teaching about nervous system regulation and your teaching of intuition is
Yeah.
because they both are connected, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's such an important part of my teaching and just embodiment is like, I want all of you to be online. I want you to listen to all of your being, right? And I want you to honor all of it. And let's plug into the gifts of all of ourselves.
Right. So it's
It's
like you
like
were
instead of being
saying,
all here, we're balanced.
that person's not all here, or they're not all there, are they? There's somewhere, a part of them is somewhere else, huh?
You're just a floating head, aren't you?
That's what I was gonna say earlier. Is that I lost my train of thought, but I was thinking about how you use the word embody, and I thought a lot of people are disembodied. I was just reading about this
Yes.
today of, you know, whatever we do repeatedly conditions us, and that, I'm on the internet a lot too, so I totally get it. So I'm kind of like having to learn how to like do something that's necessary, but then also detach from it and not become
Yeah.
whatever I do, I know it's gonna have an effect on me. But the idea that everything is so disembodied now that you're able to kind of like live a life of like fantasy and hallucination, and everything is just very, very mental, very analytical, and it has nothing to do with like for example, I think it's funny that on the internet you can't smell anything. Like I think that's hilarious because everything just becomes sight and sound. It's just all of it. And then I'm like, I love smelling stuff. You know what I mean?
You're
Like
like,
that's part
that
of
shit would have
being
been stinky.
If we could smell what people's posts and texts and things smelled like, there would be that smell intuition that would go like that shit smells. That
So
doesn't pass the
funny.
sniff test. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. Well, and also when we're in our minds, we are truly never present. Our minds are either in the past or the future. If
Yes.
we're thinking, we're not in the moment, and you can respond cognitively to the moment, but when you're in those racing thoughts or spinning out, it's incredibly rare to be right here, right now.
I
Even if we're
got
like
you.
a
Yeah.
second in the future or a second in the past, we're still not in this moment fully.
It reminds me of like some like evolutionary biologists that would talk about it's not even my favorite way of talking about things, but to say that, like we evolved um that part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex is because it's the anticipatory part of our mind. So it once like our gift and the curse because it's the thing that's anticipating and planning you can say like that's where worry lies as well. It's because it's like
Mm.
what's about to happen that I need to survive and don't die, and then there's that thing too,
Yeah.
right? So it's protecting you, and that's why a lot of the animal world doesn't necessarily live in the prefrontal cortex area because they're just are where they are, and then when danger actually occurs, boom, they respond to it and they deal with it in the situation. Whereas as humans, we're like making up danger all of the time we're not really feeling. Then what we do is we hypnotize ourselves in the negative way a lot, where we're anticipating something bad, and then our nervous system goes, okay, whatever you say, and then just experiences it constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, we're torturing ourselves in a lot of way. And even if something horrific does happen, it maybe happens for a certain amount of time, but did we spend 5 years dredging that thing, or are we going to relive it for 5 years rather than just being in the moment? I love your example about animals, because with animals something really intense might happen and then you'll see them shake it off or do whatever they do, and then they're right back to the present moment. They're not like, oh God, that was such a horrible thing that happened, let me ruminate on it. They're just,
Yeah.
it happened and now I'm back to this moment, over and over and over again. That's another really helpful practice that I've been doing more and more of, is just like shaking the crap out of my body. Get up, dance, shake, move. That really helps too. Just shake it all off. If we have a lot in our
Wow.
head, like bending down and shaking our heads out is also really helpful too.
Yeah,
Moving all that
really.
energy.
I aspire to live like a gazelle. That it's like one day I will reach gazelle level or wildebeest or whatever you want to say is because I know there was this video that people shared in the past few years where they're just like, look at this interesting behavior. And then the shaking it off becomes metaphorical and literal at the same time of being able to like the dust that's on you and shake it off and move on with your life. Haven't you
Yeah.
noticed that little kids do that too?
Yep.
Like my little son, he will lose his mind and then immediately love me. And I'm not used to that. So he's teaching me this amazing lesson in life where I think that he'll resent me if something bad just happened or he's something that he was freaking out about. And then immediately he's in playful mode, giving me the most beautiful smile. And then I was like, I should aspire to be like a baby. I should be more like a baby and a wild animal because I'm
Yeah.
too smart for my own good, and then something horrible happens, and I keep thinking about why did that have to happen, and I gotta learn now to
Yeah.
kind of like snap out of it.
When they have these huge epic tantrums and then they're fine and you're like shaking as an adult based on the tantrum, and they're like, oh, I'm fine now, and they move on. It's like, oh God, I'm not fine. I've got all these years of trauma and crap that you haven't had to deal with. So that's still in my body nervous system, right? It's that like freedom of expression. They're not editing. If they're angry, they're angry. If they're sad, they're sad. They're just feeling it. But then in that expression, it's moving, it's flowing, it's not stuck. I don't think we are great at that as adults. I think we're kind of taught either let me throw it at you because I don't want to feel this, or let me just push that shit way down.
Yeah.
And then our bodies are holding it.
I get excited about the implications of this because I think, okay, if I can I'm already getting better at this. If I can get better at snapping out of maybe like a negative thing, it makes me
Yeah.
sometimes wonder, like, can I voluntarily snap into one?
Hmm.
Is that's the next one that I want to work on because I'm like, okay, I learned how to kind of like get rid of some of the toxicity or even like feel stressed and then just go, okay, move on now. Like, yeah, that
Hmm.
was really annoying and it was great that you were mad. Like, it's totally fine. But like, I just want to have a good day now, just like
Yeah.
just switch into that. But then
Yeah.
also have moments where I'm like, okay, if I'm feeling like a little groggy or something, can I find a way to move into a different state where now I'm tapping into my intuition. Now I'm in a creative state. And I'm not sure I've like necessarily found out that way because with a lot of people, we're really motivated to find out like how can a teacher, how can a therapist help me get rid of something bad?
Hmm.
Most of our like because it's a survival mechanism. How can we get rid of the bad things in our life? And that's more of a motivator than the how can I leap forward into something cool that I can do? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When I
Yeah.
would do that for me and for others.
Yeah, and I feel like it's all tied together, right? And there's a balance because we don't need to stay feeling horrible forever, but that feeling that's arising is purposeful and there's a message. And we're like we talked about, we're kind of taught to override it or to suppress it or to like, I don't want to feel this way, I want to feel that. But we're needing to be with what's present. And by being with what's present, we do invite in more of what we want to feel, more of the joy and more of the beautiful things.
Yeah.
But you can't leap there if you're bypassing a feeling in your body. And I think it's also connected to the inner child, the inner children in us, and those qualities. And it's almost like when we don't let ourselves feel, we are suppressing that part of ourselves. And that part of ourselves is also connected to the joy and the play and the creativity and all of those things. And so I think there's a fine balance between, can I be in this? There's days where I'm just like in it and I'm in pain and I'm crying and I'm feeling the weight of the world and I'm feeling what I've been through. And I have to like hit that well. I have to like really feel it. And then
Yes.
the next day I wake up feeling freaking great, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's longer than that, right? I'm not saying anybody who's like really severely depressed to just like puff it out. Never, like, honor what you need and your resources. But when we really honor our emotions without conditions, there's this beautiful flow and movement by
Yeah.
letting them be, you know?
Have you noticed this thing, which is something like in my work that I find really interesting, is the idea that when you're in a state, let's say you're like in a state of anger or something like that,
Yeah.
that it seems to be that everything is like downstream of that current state that you're in. So what happens is, let's say I'm angry. Then I start like everything that I think about is like filtered through anger. Do you know what I mean? So then suddenly I'm like, that person, how did I not realize that they're annoying all the time? This situation's stupid. And then like you just start like sorting through everything through the anger. And what I've learned is I go, wait, you need to like be in a different state before doing any of these problems that you need to solve, before talking to anyone at this moment. Unless this is funny, I've heard someone have advice where they said, if there's ever any like conversation you've been avoiding for a really long time, if you're ever angry, use the anger and go, this is the day I'm gonna get some shit done. I'm gonna have to fire somebody. I'm gonna have to like just let's just get like make this an angry, useful day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
saying that like since I think people go about things backwards where they go, what do I need to do in my life to achieve a certain state? That it's almost like if you think about it backwards, if I need to like master my own states before I can make decisions even, because then
Mhm.
all your decisions will be based on that state that you're currently in. So I like to use the example of, I don't know if you ever, when you were a kid, you go up to mom or dad and you had something like a request, a big request, and usually you know it's a no that they're gonna give you. You go like wait till like they're having like one of the best days ever, and then you go, oh yeah, baby, this is the moment. And then they say yes, and you're like, ah, it was great. I asked at the right moment. I wanted to go to that sleepover. I wanted to go on that vacation or whatever. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, whatever. That's how like we work. Is sometimes you have to like if there's like a tough decision that requires a lot of concentration, maybe wait till you're in a good place.
Yeah. Well, and you're also speaking to the nervous system states, right? When everything is annoying and everybody sucks and I hate everything, right? That's fight or flight. People are messed up and unsafe, right? And then it's like in the other state, it's like nothing works. Everything is horrible. Why
Yeah.
bother? It's just like that despair and like I'm dying. And when we're in dorsal, when we're in our center, when we're balanced in our nervous system, we can do exactly what you just said. We can respond appropriately. We can express our emotions in healthy ways. And I think also when we're feeling, sometimes we're not actually feeling, we're just spinning out in our heads rather than dropping into our bodies and going, okay, where do I feel this in my body? What does it feel like? Let me breathe into this. Let me love on myself. Let me just be here. Let me just breathe. Let me just be raging and just be with my rage. And can I validate it? Can I leave space for it to move instead of just like, screw this person and I hate them and this is their fault? And then sometimes we even need to understand it. It's like, no, I can't actually feel because I don't understand why I'm feeling this way. So only understand it. And once I understand it, then I'll let myself feel this way. There's just so many ways that we inhibit what can be so simple. It could move in like a minute if we just let ourselves be with it. We really overcomplicate things. I totally do it as well. I'm like, oh, I'm spinning out. I call it fruitcaking. One of my old coworkers and I came up with the name because I would spin out. And
Yeah.
nobody really likes fruitcake. And so we're like, let's put a funny spin on spinning out. So let's just call it fruitcaking. And so we would call each other out like, hey, you are fully fruitcaking, where you're just, spinning out over and over again. Let's come back. Let's come back to
Hey,
center.
well, what you're doing is genius actually, because that's actually a really clever method is instead of identifying with the feeling, sometimes what you do is if you go, I've learned this a little bit, which is to kind of go like, how stupid is this right now? Like to do like an outside observer and go like, this is you're like in a cartoon right now. You're being ridiculous. So I've had moments where I'm able to kind of like be angry, but then you start to mix it with like a little bit of laughter. Or I've had things where something horrible is happening, and I'm just in that I need you to take this seriously kind of moment, like for people around me, and then they're
Yeah.
laughing, and then I go, "Hey, you could laugh a little bit too right now, Jesse." But then you just like it's almost like you become you're like I'm committed to being angry, and you're ruining the mood.
Yeah.
And, like
You're
you
like
enjoy it.
stubbornly clinging to it. I
Yeah.
totally know what you're saying. Like, even if you know you're acting like a total doofus, you just like there's just so much momentum behind it. You're like, I gotta just kind of play this out, but just see
Yeah.
how this goes. Yeah.
So don't you think
Humor is
that
helpful for
every
sure.
person has multiple personalities, and there are
Yeah.
emotions?
Do I
That
think that?
I mean, it's kind of rhetorical, but yeah, sure. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think we have all kinds of parts. And we often let a lot of parts drive that we probably shouldn't be given the leadership role, but we learn,
Yeah, so
you
it's
know,
like the real self is the self that maybe this is what you think is that observer underneath it all.
yeah,
Sometimes it's kind of hard to remember where that is. And
yeah.
it's like people when you're drifting along identifying now the angry person, now I'm this. It's almost
Mm.
like what was that Pixar thing with all the emotions?
Oh, yeah.
That was really good.
Inside out.
Inside, yeah, exactly. So kind of
Yeah.
depicting, oh, they're just like little people. You like, so I'm like, oh, angry Jesse, depressed Jesse, or whatever, and
Yeah.
and you don't even necessarily have to even identify with the, I don't know, like blissful Jesse. You know what I mean? Because you go, that's the real one, right? That's my favorite one, right? That's got to be the true me. But
Yeah.
even that one is something that you could hold on to, and then like, oh, nope, it's gonna pass you by again.
Yeah. It's like all of the many parts. I love internal family systems and how they talk about it. It just, these are all of our different parts. And I feel like when we see it that way, you can have more compassion and acceptance for where you are because it's not defining you as a whole. And you can call in that wisdom, you can call in that higher knowing to be with these parts of yourself that maybe are losing their shit. Maybe they need your support.
Yeah. Okay, so we have like a little bit of time left, and
Okay.
there's something that I really want to ask you about, which is I kind of want to pick your brain about. maybe the people that you've worked with where you've helped people to develop intuition. And maybe you could kind of like talk about the main patterns that you see in people. So in other words, like what it is that you notice people need, and yeah, we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think we are all intuitive. I think we are all psychic. I think we are all connected, clairvoyant, all of the terms you might hear to describe that. I think we are all born in that way. And throughout our lives, over time, we are invalidated. When we're children, we might be talking to our parents and we might say, Mommy, why are you mad? I'm mad. And then you go, Oh, I'm wrong. I'm going to invalidate myself, right? And we're really picking up invalid ways as children to all of the cues in our environment. And then, we're slowly but surely invalidated by, all of the environments as we're taught kind of by collective programming, right? Like be nice when this person is clearly raging, or, do this because this is the norm, but I can tell that they are in a ton of pain, or all of the ways that we pick up appropriately and then are told, no, that's not actually the experience. So I would say invalidation is like the number one thing I see that I help people unpeel. I'm not teaching people how to do this as much as I'm helping them unpeel what is keeping them from already owning their innate gifts. And I think we are all gifted in that way. One of the things I also see is this belief of like, I'm not gifted. I don't have these talents like you, comments like that. And I think that's not complete crap. I don't think it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
I think we are all gifted. I think we're all gifted in unique ways, right? But I think we are all connected to some very deep medicine that we're meant to share with the world. And I help validate people's beliefs. I help validate people's self-trust. I help validate people's experiences by looking at roots limit us. And so much of what we have to move through was never ours. It's ancestral healing, collective healing, family stuff, all the things that limited the people before us. And they did what they could. And now we're doing what we can, and our children will do what they can. And it's not about blame, it's just about really unpeeling all that's not true to let who we really are come through. What else is there?
Well, that's cool. I like that. So I was imagining you're almost like the street sweeper, where like someone's just trying to get down the road, and then you're like, "Yeah, just keep walking. I'm just gonna move all the garbage out of your way. That's
Exactly.
not
Let me
right."
just dust this off and this off. Um, and then as you unpeel those, it's like doing that self validation that we already talked about of like, oh, I definitely heard that I shouldn't have stepped on the bee and then I stepped on the bee. I'm going to listen to this voice a little bit more,
Yeah.
or like surrounding yourself people that are validating, that are safe, and that can help you step more fully into what's true for you. Because if you're doing this and you're surrounding yourself by people that are going to be like, that's crap, that's not true, that's not real, you take one step forward, then you take three steps back. So I think another huge part of it is like learning whose feedback you honor and let the rest fall to the ground. If they're not, I love how Brene says it. If you're not in the arena with me getting your ass kicked, I'm not open for your opinion. And I love that. I'm not. If you're not
Yeah.
doing your own work, if you're not having the courage to show up in certain ways, I really have no interest in hearing what you have to say. And it's not that you might not be a wonderful person, but how could you possibly speak to something that you know nothing about?
I
And
always
I
call
think
it
that's
having
a big
a
part.
skin in the game.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
can actually, if you're involved somehow, it's almost like I get what you're saying is there are people who can say things to me and I know what they're saying is true, but I don't care where it's coming from because they're just parroting. It's like, a parrot can tell you beautiful wisdom, you know what I mean? But still it
Yes.
doesn't mean that the parrot is going to be someone you keep around with you forever because you know what the parrot's going to do is just going to say the same thing over and over again. They can't really like have new information. They're
Yeah.
just repeating
Just give it
things.
a cracker and shut it on up.
Exactly. Yeah, so I like that.
A
It's
lot of
like,
it too, to add one more thing, is like
yeah.
in it is sitting through discomfort. That is a part of it. I wish I could say, hey, we're going to dive into meditation. It's going to feel amazing. And you're just going to be there. You're going to be at the finish line, but it's not. It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. It's getting comfortable looking at these things that are limiting you, sitting with it, feeling it, letting it move. That's a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if you even have an answer for this, but are there certain things that start to happen to someone? Are there certain signs to look for in your life, more specifically, that let you know that you are that like are confirmations that you've gotten the bullshit out of the way and that you're heading in the right direction? You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
I think there will always be more bullshit. I would love for there not to be, but my life has not shown me that. I think there will always be new layers, but I think that's unique for everybody. For me, I'm a huge numerology nerd and angel numbers, and I love that, like having license plates come into my face that are, saying exactly what I've been looking for, or songs or messages from podcasts or books. I think we're always being communicated with, and our intuition is always trying to tell us stuff, whether it's us, our higher selves, our guides, the universe, angels, whatever higher power you resonate with, there's always this communication. And I think the most important part is set an intention. If you want more communication, if you want more trust, say that, write it down, put it out there in the universe. I want to believe in myself more. I want to connect more deeply with my intuition. I want to stop invalidating myself, put it out there, and then give yourself enough space to receive, and also some form of daily practice that connects you with yourself is huge, because if you're getting messages but you're going a million miles an hour, you're not going to get them. So maybe it's journaling, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's yoga. There's no wrong way to connect with yourself, but finding time every day to connect with yourself. And I often hear, well, I don't have time. That's not true. That's a limitation. We can always find time. It might be
Yeah.
5 minutes, but we all have 5 minutes a day to
Yeah.
connect with ourselves.
Don't you think there's this weird irony, which is so much of us seeking like some kind of spiritual answer, or like really, really looking for like someone else to tell us, or that it's like something I imagine like you, because I look at this all through like my own experience, what I've done. It's like,
Yeah.
where are you? Where are you, God? Where's the answer? And you're like reaching for it out there. And then I've had moments where it's just sort of like the thing that you think, oh, I'm not worthy and it couldn't be through me. And it's like you are where it's going to happen. Even if you reach out and you get something, it's gonna happen here anyway, inside of me. And then it's almost like this strange paradox where like once you accept that you are the place where God lives in the world, that it has to happen on the inside, and that like nothing outside of you is ever gonna be like no one's ever gonna like do things for you. Like you're your own teacher. So that's why like that thing that you were writing about today about the what was it? Did you
The
say death
guru
of the
energy.
guru or
I said the age of the guru is over. We can kill him. That's fine.
I just added that on there. Okay, you did not say
I like
that.
it.
You are
I'm
not
fully on board
American.
with it.
But it's just really cool because that just means you are picking up on something that's in the collective, or that you just knew, that you just intuitively knew this too. Because I was really just thinking, even like last night, I was thinking about how I'm at this stage in my life, and maybe a lot of people are shedding this kind of thing, where even the people that I respect the most, my heroes and my teachers, something is telling me, let them go now because they're not me. And they were another person who's just being bold enough to do what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. In other words, I'm supposed to be one of these teachers. And I'm reaching
Yeah.
this impatient part of my life where I go, Jesse, you've read enough books, you absorbed enough stuff, you just sat around and absorbed and you've been the sponge. And then I'm kind of like, I think I'm full now. I think I have a lot of stuff. I think I can maybe I have something I want to say at this point. And I'm in this
Yeah.
like kind of wanting to like create mode. And I go, and it's like what you were saying almost is that you know who has the most skin in the game? From my point of view, is me. Only I can really know what I want to say. So I really like what you're talking about is like that idea of connecting to yourself is just like even I think in like a small level of going like, what do you really enjoy? That's not just what's trending, like playing a record and going, I just really love this song, and maybe no one other than me in the whole world loves this, but you just know what you find beautiful, know what you think is important in the world, And that in the long run, it's almost like I was making up this idea last night, which was I'm gonna start a cult of one person.
Please don't.
No, it's a
I'll have
cult
to
of
write a
one.
post about you.
But the joke was that it's just this a phrase to grab you is I'm starting
Yeah.
a cult of one,
Yeah.
a religion of one person, and that in the long run, that's what it's all about. Is that we all want to like join the belief system, but I'm like almost feeling challenged to go, I have to create my own, but it's not for other people to join mine, as if
Yeah.
I'm trying to like, please validate me. It's I create what I believe, know what I morally believe in, what's right and what's wrong, and then I just keep that for me. And that's how you grow spiritually. Or this idea of like individuation is that all of your life is meant to just literally be embodying and becoming yourself fully. And
Yeah.
it's going to be so unique, like a fingerprint. It's not going to match everyone else's, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's such a hard dynamic when people give their powers away to teachers, or teachers, are okay with that, because all of our paths are unique. And what was right for me might be completely wrong for you. And so, can we help people come back to their knowing? Can we help people find their own answers? I don't have their answers, they have their answers. I just want to help people connect to that. The image I used to get a lot before I started doing this work was, it was like I was in this weird dark room and I was connected to this beam of light. And there were all these other people like climbing on their own little poles to get to their platform. And it was like this picture of helping people connect to their own light, helping people connect to their own source, right? We can't do that for them, but we can help them make that connection. And then each one of us that are in our light, we're lighthouses, right? We're helping people find their way back to themselves too, not to us, not to orbit around us, but to find that whatever you see in the people that you admire the most, that is within you, or you wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And same thing with the things you hate the most about other people, that's within you too. There's something there that you've maybe already worked on, or you're needing to work on, right? And so, yeah, we're all teachers, we're all guides. And when you were talking about, I just feel like I meant to share it. I'm hearing that so much of like, this is the time where like we are asked to use our voices.
Mhm.
That was coming through so strong before you made that post and we connected for this. It was like, talk, share, share your medicine in
Yeah.
whatever medium wants to be shared for each person.
Yeah, I really feel like the era of wanting to kind of like let's all blissfully dissolve into each other in like like in a harmonious ocean of unity that like there's a time for everything. And that time was there and that time's over. Sorry, people. Now it's going to be about real strict individualism and about collaborating with how weird and different we are. That's what I think it
Yeah.
is. Having hard edges almost around who you are and going, I'm a little quirky. I have a little some ugliness here. But am I not interesting in my own cool way? And you are too. And we're going to talk different and we're going to look different. We're not going to use the same like trendy words anymore. We're going to have our own voices. And
Yeah.
that I was thinking, people always go, oh, the unique thing about you is your fingerprint. And I was thinking, your voice is more unique even than a fingerprint is. And I literally even mean like your physical voice. Like, because you know how like
Yeah.
there's like a CSI things like they use the voice and you can like identify a
Oh,
person. And I'm like, kind of
yeah.
is literally like a unique thing, has
Yeah.
its own, vibration. Um, but that's where the communication of something being created from within you. There's just so much I've been thinking about the voice lately. So I just love that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. We are definitely all being asked to share in whatever way is in alignment for us. Yeah. Agreed.
Beautiful. Okay. So with our last few minutes, maybe you could kind of just do a little overview of the things you got going on in your life. Do you ever watch Hot Ones, the TV show? I almost
Oh, for
do the
the
thing.
for the chicken, right?
Yeah.
I
I
got
almost
pretty into that during COVID. Yeah.
I wanted to do
Show's
the thing at the
awesome.
end where he goes, "All right, now this camera, this camera, this camera. I want you to tell the people at home what you got going on in your life."
I'm just glad you're not making me eat all the spicy hot wings. So thank you.
Nope, that's next season.
Okay, perfect. I'll be ready. I'll be ready. So the best way to connect with me would to be to go to my website at melissabullockembody.com or find me on Instagram at melissabullock.embody. That will have all of my upcoming events. But one of the ones that I'm excited about, it'll probably already launch by the time this goes live, but I'm going to keep doing it every few months. It's called Anchored, and it's a 6 week program that helps you establish a daily meditation or self-care program or practice where that we go over grounding, we go over breath work, we go over nervous system regulation, energetic awareness, and boundaries. So if you're maybe new to meditation or new to building a self-care practice, we'll give you really good foundations within that space. And it also comes with 6 weeks of group coaching and then a one-on-one coaching session. And it's really all about meeting yourself exactly where you are. And then I'm also doing energy school with my friend Laura. And there's 3 different offerings a month. And we just nerd out on all things energy and woo
Nice.
woo. And it's just so much fun. We have a really beautiful group that meets virtually or in person. You can also do both. And I have so much fun with that one. It's all about developing your intuitive abilities for that series. And then I also am starting a series called Alchemy of the Phoenix, and that's with my other friend Laura, different Laura's, and it's for women who have experienced narcissistic abuse. And we do a 4 session series. We're meeting at Crow's End, which is a gorgeous space right off of Avila Beach, and it's really alchemizing that pain, alchemizing it into medicine, and really becoming a new sovereign self. And we look at different stages of alchemy throughout the process. And I'm really excited to start that. And then I also have different classes for yoga and meditation in person and also on the platform Insight Timer. So a lot happening, a lot being creative, and I'm super excited to finally have the space to do so and to really bring my offerings that have been screaming to be birthed for a long time into the world. Very grateful.
Cool. Yeah, you're doing it. You're in creative mode already. You're already sharing your voice. The cool thing is when you see a lot of people, trying to jump in on a bandwagon to get ahead of it before they do. So you're already there. You're already riding the horse before it even comes out. You know what I mean? You're like, I don't know, is it a new year of some kind? Already doing it, okay?
I've been preparing for this fire horse year, I feel like, for a while. Like I've been planting the seeds and now I'm like, okay, let's get on it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Right on. Okay, this was a really beautiful talk. I had a great time. It just kind of like flew by for me, and then I'm like,
Same. Same.
you definitely coming back on to elaborate on the things we spoke about for like 2 minutes that I need to hear more about.
I'm happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jesse.